The fluorescent hum of the kitchen faded into a distant buzz as Kevin slid into the corner booth, the one reserved for ghosts of deals long closed. At 35, he'd built an empire of sizzling plates and whispered power plays across Manhattan's skyline. But tonight, the weight of another empty chair pressed harder than any boardroom stare. He flagged the server with a nod, his voice steady as he ordered the ribeye medium rare, just like always unaware that this simple act would crack open the vaulted doors of his armored heart. The steak arrived steaming, juices pooling like unspoken regrets, and Kevin cut into it with the precision of a man who'd sliced through mergers and heartaches alike. But as he lifted the plate's edge to signal for the check, a folded scrap of paper fluttered free, its edges worn as if carried in a pocket too long. He unfolded it slowly, the words scrawled in hurried blue ink hitting him like a rogue wave. I see you. And I think you see me too. But what if we're both just pretending? Kevin's fork clattered against porcelain, the sound swallowed by the murmur of late diners, oblivious to the seismic shift rippling through his chest. Who had left this? A server? A line cook? In that instant, the restaurant is restaurant. Le Forge, the crown jewel of his chain, transformed from a monument to his ambition into a mirror reflecting the fragments he'd buried deep. He was Kevin Hargrove, the unflinching CEO who'd clawed his way from a Queen's tenement to Forbes lists, all while keeping his truth locked behind boardroom smiles. Gay. Yes, but only in the quiet hours, in apps swiped away at dawn or glances averted in crowded bars. Out to his sister, tolerated by his exes who came and went like seasonal menus, but never fully, never fiercely, to the world that had crowned him king. That note wasn't just ink on paper. It was a summons, pulling him back to the boy he'd been at 18, wide-eyed and terrified in the fluorescent glare of his first kitchen shift. Back then, in 2008, the economy was crumbling like overcooked brisket, and Kevin was just another kid dodging his father's belt and his mother's prayers for a normal son. His family, Irish-Italian stock rooted in Astoria's brick row houses, had immigrated generations ago, chasing the American dream that promised reinvention but delivered suspicion for anyone who didn't fit the mold. Kevin's dream was simple: escape the suffocating Sundays of church and silence, where his crushes on the altar boys burned hotter than the rectory incense. He'd started washing dishes at a greasy spoon off Steinway Street, hands raw from scalding water, eyes stealing glances at Marco, the busboy with sun-kissed skin and a laugh that cut through the grease like fresh basil. Marco was 20, a year older, with dreams of culinary school and a family back in Ecuador, sending remittances that never stretched far enough. They bonded over late-night shifts, sharing stolen cigarettes behind the dumpster. Marco's stories of Tijuana markets weaving magic into Kevin's gray world. Food's the great equalizer, Kev, Marco would say, his accent wrapping around the words like warm tortillas. It don't care who you love, as long as you feed the soul. But love crept in uninvited, fierce and forbidden. One rain-slicked night in June, after closing, Marco pulled Kevin into the walk-in cooler, the chill biting at their skin as lips met in a collision of desperation and discovery. It was clumsy, electric hands fumbling over aprons, breaths mingling with the scent of yeast and longing. For those stolen minutes, Kevin felt seen, whole. The boy who'd hidden dog-eared copies of Whitman under his mattress finally breathing free. Marco whispered promises of forever, of getting out together, opening a food truck in Brooklyn where they could cook without chains. Yet forever shattered like cheap china the next morning. Marco's boss caught wind whispers from a jealous co-worker, and by noon, immigration agents swarmed the diner, badges gleaming like accusations. Marco vanished into the system, deported before Kevin could even plead. The last Kevin heard was a collect call from a detention center in Texas. Don't forget the taste of us. Mi amor. It's what makes life worth the burn. Kevin drove to the border that summer, a fool's errand in his beat-up Civic. But the gates were ironclad, and his heart learned its first brutal lesson: love, for men like them, was a dish best served in shadows. Years blurred into a relentless climb. Kevin poured that ache into ambition, enrolling at the Culinary Institute on scholarships scraped from every tip jar. By 25, he was head chef at a midtown bistro, his fusion of Italian roots and global flavors earning Michelin whispers. He dated discreetly tall architects, brooding artists, but none lingered. Echoes of Marco's absence haunting every goodbye. Coming out. It was a luxury for those without empires to protect. Investors balked at distractions. Board members hinted at family values. And Kevin armored up. His rainbow pride a private tattoo on his ribcage, inked in a haze of tequila after his 30th birthday. Le Forge opened in 2019, a triumph of reclaimed wood and exposed brick in Soho, where power lunches fueled deals that minted millionaires. Kevin's chain expanded to 5 locations by 2023, a testament to his unyielding drive. But success was a hollow plate. Holidays alone in his Tribeca loft, scrolling Grindr like a man starving for connection. His sister, Elena, the only anchor from those Astoria days, nagged him over FaceTime, "You're building castles, Kev, but who's gonna live in them with you?" She'd married a schoolteacher, popped out 2 kids who called him Uncle Kev and begged for stories of the magic kitchens. Elena knew his truth, had held him through the Marco wreckage. But even she couldn't pierce the CEO facade. Now, at 35, that note under his plate was a grenade in the quiet of his booth. "I see you." The words looped in his mind as he pocketed the paper, signaling for the bill with hands that trembled just enough to betray him. Who saw through the veneer? His mind raced through faces, the sommelier with the knowing smile, the pastry chef who'd lingered too long at last week's tasting. But it was the new line cook, Alex, who flickered into focus, a 22-year-old from rural Ohio, all sharp angles and guarded eyes. Hired 3 months back on Elena's recommendation. Alex Rivera. Non-binary, they slashed them, with a resume that screamed potential and a quiet that hid storms. Kevin had noticed them during orientation, the way Alex's hands moved with poetic grace over knives, carving vegetables into art while their gaze darted like a cornered fawn. Over coffee breaks, snippets emerged: a conservative upbringing in Dayton, a family that prayed away confusion, a scholarship to NYU that barely covered the city's bite. Alex volunteered at a youth center for queer kids. Elena had said, eyes shining with pride, "They're like you were. Kev, full of fire. Just needs a spark." That night, as rain lashed the windows of Le Forge, Kevin lingered in his office overlooking the empty floor. The note burned in his pocket, Marco's ghost whispering from the edges. He pulled it out again, tracing the loops of handwriting that matched Alex's from inventory logs. A confession, a cry, or a mirror held up to his own pretense. For the first time in years, vulnerability clawed its way free, raw and insistent. What if this was the sign the universe's rhyme menu for a man who'd forgotten how to taste his own life? The next morning dawned gray over the Hudson, but Kevin's resolve sharpened like a whetstone. He called an emergency staff meeting, the kind usually reserved for menu overhauls or PR crises. 50 faces gathered in the main dining room, the air thick with curiosity and the faint scent of last night's garlic confit. Kevin stood at the podium, suit impeccable, but his voice cracked on the first word, a fissure no amount of rehearsal could seal. "I've spent 15 years building this place," he began, eyes sweeping the room, landing on Alex in the back row, arms crossed like a shield. "Le Forge isn't just about steaks or stars, it's about the stories we serve, the lives we touch. And yesterday, one of those stories found me." He held up the note. Anonymous still. Its words projected on the screen behind him for all to see. Gasps rippled. Then silence. Heavy as fresh snow. I'm gay, he said, the words tumbling out like long-held breath. And for too long, I've let that part of me simmer in the background, afraid it'd burn the bridges I worked so hard to build. But this, he tapped the paper, reminded me that hiding doesn't protect. It starves us all. Murmurs swelled. Some nods. A few tears. Alex's eyes widened, then softened. A silent thank you passing between them like a shared secret. From there, the floodgates cracked. Kevin outlined changes, mandatory allyship training, a queer employee resource group, partnerships with local shelters for LGBTQ youth. LaForge would host Pride Nights, donate proceeds to immigration aid. Echoes of Marco's fight woven into the fabric. But it was Alex who stepped forward after, voice steady despite the quiver. That note was mine, they admitted, cheeks flushing under the lights. I saw how you look at the world like you're waiting for permission to belong. I know that look. It's mine too. In the weeks that followed, Kevin and Alex became unlikely allies. Their bond forged in late-night prep sessions and raw confessions over leftover tiramisu. Alex shared tales of Ohio basements where they'd hidden journals of poetry, dreaming of a city that didn't demand binaries. Kevin opened up about Marco, the deportation that had taught him love's fragility, the years of building walls higher than his skyline views. Together, they redesigned the menu, a Marco's memory dish. Ecuadorian spices mingling with Italian herbs. Proceeds to border families. It sold out nightly. Diners lingering not for the flavor, but the story etched in every bite. Yet growth wasn't linear. It twisted like vines up a trellis. Board meetings turned tense. Investors murmuring about brand risk, forcing Kevin to fight for his vision with the same ferocity he'd once reserved for profit margins. Personal doubts crept in when old fears whispered that vulnerability was weakness, that the empire might crumble under authenticity's weight. Elena flew in for a weekend, her kids tumbling through the loft like whirlwinds, reminding him of joy's simple ingredients, laughter, not ledgers. One crisp October evening, 6 months after the note, Kevin stood on the LaForge rooftop. The city sprawled like a glittering apology below. Alex joined him, a bottle of Cabernet uncorked between them, the air alive with autumn's bite. You changed everything, Kevin said, clinking glasses, his voice thick. Not just for me, for us. Alex smiled, eyes reflecting the distant lights. Nah, you just reminded us we're all under the same plate, waiting for someone to lift it. As winter thawed into spring, LaForge bloomed anew. Kevin's coming out rippled outward. Articles in the Times hailing him as a trailblazer. Invitations to speak at Pride galas flooding his inbox. But the real magic unfolded in quieter corners. A line cook proposing to his boyfriend over dessert service. A server confiding in Alex about their transition fears. Finding not judgment, but a network of hands extended. Kevin's heart, once a vault, now overflowed. He started dating again. Tentatively a graphic designer named Theo with a laugh like summer thunder. Their first walk in Central Park feeling like Marco's ghost granting absolution. No rush. No armor. Just two men stepping into light. Hand in hand. Yet the story's true arc crested in crisis. In early 2025, whispers of economic downturn threatened the chain's expansion. Layoffs looming like storm clouds. Kevin faced the hardest board vote of his career. His authenticity now a double-edged knife praised publicly. Penalized privately. You're too soft now. One investor sneered over Zoom. Woke agendas tanking stock. The night before the vote, doubt clawed deep. Kevin wandered LaForge's empty floor, fingers tracing tabletops scarred by years of stories. Alex found him there, slouched in that corner booth. The notes ghost between them. "Remember why we started this?" they said, sliding into the seat opposite. "Not for shares for souls." Dawn brought clarity. Kevin entered the boardroom not with pleas, but power, data on boosted loyalty from queer-friendly policies, testimonials from staff whose lives he'd mended. Lou Forge thrives because it's human, he declared, voice unyielding. And humans change. We adapt. Or we fade. The vote passed 7-3. A narrow victory that tasted sweeter than any accolade. By summer's end, Kevin stood taller, his reflection in the restaurant's polished windows showing lines etched not by hiding, but by healing. Theo moved in, their loft alive with Theo's sketches and Kevin's half-burn experiments in fusion cuisine. Elena's family visited weekly, the kids now demanding Uncle Kev's coming-out cake, a towering confection of rainbow layers that drew tears and toasts. The note, framed now on his office wall, served as compass and caution, a reminder that beneath every polished surface lies a story begging to be told. Kevin Hargrove, once a boy starving for acceptance, had become a man feasting on its serving plates not just of food, but of courage, connection, the unyielding truth that love, in all its forms, is the ultimate legacy. And so, in the heart of Manhattan, where ambitions clash and dreams take root, Lou Forge endured not as a monument, but a movement, a place where a single note could rewrite a life, proving that the greatest change begins with the simplest lift of the plate. The autumn leaves of 2025 painted Central Park in strokes of amber and crimson, mirroring the quiet fire building in Kevin's chest as he walked hand in hand with Theo. It had been a year since the note. A year of uncharted freedoms that felt both exhilarating and exposing, like debuting a new dish to critics who knew your every flaw. Theo, with his easy grin and calloused hands from years as a tattoo artist in Brooklyn, grounded him, reminded him that love didn't need a Michelin star to shine. But beneath the idol, fissures lingered. Lou Forge's glow had drawn shadows, anonymous emails decrying the gay agenda, a dip in reservations from uptown conservatives who'd once packed the tables. Kevin fielded them with practiced poise. But privately, the barb stung, reopening scars from his father's era, when slurs were currency and silent survival. "You're doing good work," Theo would murmur over morning coffee, his dark curls tousled against the pillow. But good work bleeds sometimes. Elena sensed the strain during her October visit, arriving with suitcases stuffed with homemade cannoli and her unflinching gaze. Over dinner at the loft, pasta carbonara twirled on forks while the kids chased laser pointers across the hardwood. She cornered him. "You've cracked the door, Kev. Now fling it wide. Those trolls, they're just hangry for change." Her words echoed as Kevin prepped for the chain's annual gala. A glittering affair at the flagship Soho location transformed into a wonderland of crystal and candlelight. This year, the theme was Unveiled Stories, proceeds benefiting the Ollie Forney Center for Homeless LGBTQ Youth. Alex had co-curated the menu, small plates infused with global narratives, each card detailing a survivor's journey. Kevin's speech was the centerpiece, a tapestry of his own unraveling and reweaving. As guests arrived, celebrities in bespoke suits, philanthropists with checkbooks at the ready, Kevin felt the old armor itch. Theo squeezed his hand backstage, breath warm against his ear. "You've got this. We're all just stories waiting to be told." The curtain parted, applause swelling like a tide, and Kevin stepped into the spotlight, heart pounding a rhythm older than fear. "Ladies, gentlemen, friends, and those still finding their way," he began, voice carrying the gravel of a man who'd wept in walk-ins. "A year ago, a note under my plate reminded me that success without soul is just survival. Tonight, we celebrate the souls who've dared to dine at their own tables. He shared fragments, Marco's deportation, Alex's quiet courage, the youth who'd written to him post-gala last year, saying, "Your story made mine possible." The room hung on his words, tears tracing mascara, laughter punctuating the ache. Alex, emceeing from the side, beamed with pride. Their non-binary grace a beacon for the teens bust in from the center. But midway through, a heckler rose from the back, a silver-haired venture capitalist, face flushed with scotch. "This is a business, Hargrove, not a therapy session. Your rainbow revolution's killing profits." Gasps rippled, security edging forward. But Kevin held up a hand, pulse thundering. This was the test, the boardroom bully writ large, embodying every doubt he'd buried. "Profits," he countered, stepping off the stage, mic in hand like a lifeline. "They're the garnish, not the meal. And if feeding hearts costs a few margins, sign me up." The man sputtered, but the crowd erupted, drowning him in cheers. He slunk out, tail between legs, while Kevin finished to a standing ovation, Theo's eyes shining from the wings. The gala raised record funds. Headlines the next day dubbing it Lou Forge's love letter to authenticity. Yet Victory's afterglow faded fast. 2 weeks later, a viral post surfaced on a conservative forum, leaked staff memos twisted into evidence of forced wokeness. Calls to boycott mounting. Reservations plummeted 20%. Suppliers whispering of pulled contracts. Kevin's phone buzzed incessantly. Lawyers, PR firms, Elena's worried texts, "Fight dirty if you have to." He didn't. Instead, he turned to Alex, who suggested a counter-narrative, live streams from the kitchen. Employees sharing unfiltered truths. Let them see the humans behind the hype. They said over a late-night brainstorm, steam rising from mugs of chamomile. The series launched on Instagram. Raw and real, a trans bartender mixing cocktails while recounting dead-naming nightmares. A queer dad chef demoing family recipes passed down through closets. Viewership soared, not just for drama, but resonance, viewers demanding stories of their own hidden notes. Virtual tip jars overflowing for the center. Theo inked a mural on the restaurant wall, a diverse tapestry of hands lifting plates, revealing notes that bloomed into rainbows. Kevin traced it one dawn, fingers lingering on the colors, feeling Marco's echo in every line. Holiday season brought a fragile peace. Twinkling lights strung across Lou Forge's facade like fragile truces. Kevin hosted Elena's family for Christmas Eve, the loft aglow with tinsel and the scent of roasted chestnuts. The kids, now 8 and 6, staged a puppet show of Uncle Kev's big reveal. Sock puppets clashing in epic battles of love versus fear, ending in a glue-gunned rainbow flag. Laughter pealed through the rooms, Theo joining in with exaggerated villain voices, while Elena pulled Kevin aside, her embrace fierce. "Look at this life, little brother. It's the feast you deserve." But January 2026 ushered in winter's bite. Theo's ex, a sculptor from his art school days, resurfaced via email, needy, nostalgic, stirring insecurities Kevin thought dormant. Late nights found him pacing the loft, questioning if his openness had invited chaos, if Theo's affections were as steady as they seemed. A fight erupted over Nothinga forgotten anniversary dinner, escalating to Theo's slammed door and Kevin's solitary scotch, the burn reminding him of Marco's final call. Alex noticed the pallor at morning meetings, pulling him into the walk-in for a heart-to-heart amid the hum of fridges. "You're spiraling, boss. Remember, vulnerability isn't a flaw, it's the knife that carves depth." They shared their own recent wound, a family visit to Ohio gone sour. Parents' prayers now laced with ultimatums. "But I came back stronger." Alex said, eyes fierce. We all do. If we let the scars tell the story. Inspired, Kevin reached out to Theo with a gesture straight from their playbook, a home-cooked meal on the rooftop, under stars that pierced the city haze. The menu was memory Ecuadorian ceviche, nodding to Marco. Ohio pierogies for Alex's roots. A simple steak for the night that started it all. Beneath Theo's plate, a note of his own. I see you. Fully. And I choose us. Every layer. Forgiveness came in tears and tangled limbs. Not passion but presence, the quiet vow to navigate storms together. Spring bloomed with renewal. Lou Forge's boycott faded as new crowds arrived, drawn by the authenticity that had once scared them off. Kevin launched a mentorship program, pairing veteran staff with queer interns. Alex at the helm. Their leadership a quiet revolution. By summer, the chain expanded to Boston. A flagship with a wall of donor notes, anonymous confessions turned public testaments. Kevin spoke at the opening. Theo beside him, their hands linked unapologetically. This isn't just food, he said to the cheering throng. It's fuel for the fight, the one inside, where we learn to lift our own plates. The journey looped back one August evening, a full circle etched in sunset gold. Kevin received a letter forwarded from the Border Patrol archives. Marco, now a chef in Mexico City, married with a daughter. His words a bomb across miles. Heard about your empire. Mi amor. Proud doesn't cover it. Remember, the best dishes start with heart and yours was always full. Kevin framed it beside the original note. Two beacons in his office sanctuary. Life, he knew now, wasn't a straight line from pain to perfection, but a meandering path of flavors bitter, sweet, searing each bite a step toward wholeness. With Theo's laughter echoing from the kitchen, Alex's updates buzzing on his phone, Elena's voicemails promising cannoli shipments. Kevin Hargrove savored it all. A man remade by the simplest of revelations, that beneath every plate lies the power to change everything. Summer's humidity clung to Manhattan like a second skin in 2026. The kind that made even the sharpest suits wilt under pressure. Kevin thrived in it. His stride looser now. The CEO armor traded for linen shirts that breathed with his evolving ease. Theo's presence had woven permanence into his days, shared runs along the High Line at dawn. Evenings debating menu tweaks over vinyl spins of old jazz. Yet, as Lou Forge's Boston outpost hummed with opening buzz, a new undercurrent stirred, whispers of acquisition offers from faceless conglomerates hungry for his brand's edgy authenticity. Board meetings stretched into marathons, projections flashing on screens like lightning forecasts. They're offering 8 figures, the CFO urged, eyes gleaming behind bifocals. Stability in shaky markets. Kevin leaned back, fingers drumming the mahogany table, the weight of empire pressing anew. Stability sounded like surrender, the slow erasure of the soul he'd fought to infuse. We're not a product to be packaged, he countered. We're a pulse. Theo saw the toll that night, massaging knots from Kevin's shoulders as city lights flickered beyond the loft's floor-to-ceiling windows. What's really scaring you? He asked, voice soft as the rain pattering glass. Kevin hesitated, then spilled, the fear that selling out would betray Marco's memory. Alex's trust. The kids at the center who'd named him hero. I built this to belong, not to be bought. The decision crystallized over a weekend retreat to the Hargrove family cabin upstate. A weathered Adirondack relic Elena insisted they reclaim. The drive north was a bomb. Theo at the wheel. Playlist shuffling from Springsteen anthems to queer indie folk. Windows down to swallow pine-scented air. Elena arrived with the brood. Suitcases bulging with board games and Esmores kits. Her laugh a lighthouse in Kevin's fog. Evenings by the fire pit crackled with stories, Elena recounting their Astoria youth. The time Kevin accidentally dyed the neighbor's cat rainbow for pride. Theo sharing ink tales of clients who'd bared souls under needles. Alex joined via video, fresh from a youth workshop, their screen glowing with tales of teens who'd come out inspired by Lou Forge's streams. "You're the blueprint, Kev," they said. "Don't let Suits redraw it." Hikes through fern-choked trails mirrored the inner trek muddy paths yielding to vistas of endless green. One afternoon, atop a ridge overlooking mist-shrouded valleys, Kevin sat with Theo, backs against a boulder worn smooth by time. "I turned down the offer," he confessed, the words lifting like exhaled smoke. Theo's smile was sunlight. "Knew you would. Now, what's next?" Back in the city, Kevin channeled the clarity into bold strokes, a Lou Forge Foundation, funding culinary scholarships for LGBTQ immigrants and rural queer youth. Alex spearheaded the first cohort, their passion a force that drew applicants from coasts to heartland. The inaugural class gathered in Soho for orientation, a mosaic of ages and accents. From a trans teen from Alabama clutching a worn notebook to a middle-aged dad from Seattle seeking reinvention post-divorce. Kevin's welcome speech was unscripted. Raw as fresh dough. "I was you once washing dishes, dreaming of tables where I fit. This isn't charity. It's claiming our seat." Tears flowed freely, hands clasped in circles that bound strangers into family. Over the months, Kevin mentored, sporadically guiding a shy Ecuadorian kid through sauce reductions, echoing Marco's lessons with a pang of grace. Fall brought harvest festivals at all locations. Tables groaning under autumnal bounty, pumpkin ravioli drizzled with sage butter, apple cider reductions glazing heritage pork. Media swarmed, but the real harvest was personal. One crisp November night, post-shift at the Boston flagship, Kevin found a cluster of scholarship kids huddled in the alley, sharing smokes and secrets. A young woman, Mia 20, lesbian, fresh from a Texas oil town, approached hesitantly. "Mr. Hargrove, your story. It got me here. My folks disowned me when I told them. But cooking, it's my way back to them. On my terms." Her words pierced, summoning Elena's voice from boyhood. "Family's not blood. Kevin's the ones who stay for the mess." He pulled her into a hug, the group enveloping them, an impromptu choir of voices vowing resilience. Theo, arriving to whisk him home, captured the moment on his phone, not for posts, but posterity, a digital note in their growing archive. Winter holidays shimmered with expanded traditions, Lou Forge's tables of belonging dinners, free seats for those alone queer elders, newly out transplants, families mending fences. Kevin and Theo hosted one at the loft. 20 souls crammed around an extension table, laughter drowning the clink of silverware. Elena's kids led toasts, pint-sized eloquence toasting Uncle Kev and Uncle Theo's forever adventure. But 2027 dawned with a tempest. A former investor, smarting from the rebuffed buyout, leaked doctored financials to a tabloid, painting Lou Forge as a failing woke experiment. Stock in the publicly traded shares tanked overnight. Layoffs loomed, and picketers gathered outside Soho, signs scrawling slurs that echoed a story of taunts. Kevin's phone exploded. Reporters, panicked execs, Elena's frantic call, "Lawyer up, but don't lose you." The siege tested every layer. Sleepless nights blurred into strategy sessions, Kevin's reflection hollow-eyed in bathroom mirrors. Theo held the line, cooking midnight breakfasts of eggs and empathy, while Alex rallied staff with morale boosts, group therapy tie-ins, resilience workshops. "We're battle-tested," they declared in all-hands huddles. "This is just another heat wave." Publicly, Kevin went scorched earth authentic, a press conference flanked by foundation scholars. Voices united in rebuttal. "These numbers lie. he said, gaze steady for cameras. But our impact? That's truth meals served to 5,000 youth last year. Careers launched. Lives reclaimed. Mia spoke next. Her Texas twang unbowed. LaForge didn't just teach me knife skills. It taught me I'm worth the cut. The tide turned slowly, fact checks debunking the leaks. Celebrity endorsements flooding socials. A rival chain's CEO praising the model in a surprise op-ed. By spring, shares rebounded. Picketers dwindled to cranks. And LaForge emerged leaner. Fiercer a phoenix of provenance. In the quiet aftermath, Kevin proposed to Theo on a whim. Down on one knee in the walk-in cooler where it all began for him. Chill air nipping at their grins. No ring, yet just a note tucked in Theo's pocket. Will you lift this plate with me? Forever. Theo's yes was a vow sealed with laughter. Plans for a ceremony at the cabin unfolding like a well-aged recipe. The wedding in June was a harvest of hearts, Elena officiating in a rainbow stole. Alex as best person weaving toasts with poetry. Mia catering the cakey, a towering edifice of flavors from every corner of their stories. Guests from the foundation mingled with old suppliers. The air alive with dances that blurred lines and boundaries. As dusk fell over the lake, Kevin pulled Theo aside. The note from years ago now a talisman in his breast pocket. You know, he murmured, foreheads touching. That scrap of paper didn't just change my restaurant. It changed my everything. Theo's eyes sparkled, hand over heart. And we're just getting started on the menu. The summer of 2027 unfurled like a banner of hard-won peace. LaForge's locations pulsing with the rhythm of a brand reborn, resilient. Radiant. Rooted in revelation. Kevin and Theo's honeymoon was a meandering road trip up the Pacific coast. A deliberate detour from boardrooms to beaches where waves crashed without agenda. They camped under redwoods in Big Sur. Cooking over open flames. Grilled halibut kissed with lemon and dill. Esmores spiked with sea salt. Nights tangled in sleeping bags. Theo's whispers tracing constellations on Kevin's skin. Mending the last frayed threads of solitude. Back east, the foundation flourished. Its scholarships swelling to dozens. Alex, now director, traveled the circuit panels at Pride conferences. Keynotes at culinary fests, their voice a clarion for the unseen. Kevin joined when he could. Their duo act a dynamic of fire and finesse. Alex's poetic firebrand paired with Kevin's measured gravitas. One September evening in Chicago, at a youth summit sponsored by the foundation, a panel on culinary closets drew a packed hall of wide-eyed attendees. Kevin shared the walk-in tale with Marco. Voice steady but eyes misting at the memory's edge. Lost taught me to layer flavors carefully, he said. But coming out, that's adding the spice that makes it sing. A question from the front row, a lanky teen named Jordan. Non-binary and nervous, gut deep. What if your family's the hardest ingredient to swallow? The room hushed. Kevin's mind flashing to his own fractured roots. His parents had passed years ago, father in 18 from the bottle's toll. Mother in 21. Her final days softened by Elena's bridge building. No grand reconciliations. Just quiet visits where silences spoke volumes. Family's a recipe you revise, he answered, leaning into the mic. Not all stick, but the ones that do. They're the soul. Jordan approached after. Notebook clutched like armor. I'm from Gary, Indiana. Folks think I'm phased. Your story. It's like permission. Kevin swapped contacts. A new mentorship budding. One of countless ripples from that fateful note. Fall deepened the commitments. Theo's tattoo studio boomed with commissions inspired by LaForgeable art inked on skin. Plates lifted to reveal blooming affirmations. Their loft evolved into a gallery of sorts. Walls alive with sketches and spice jars labeled in Theo's looping script. Elena's visits grew frequent. Her kids now apprentices in the kitchen, chopping carrots with solemn concentration, demanding the secret to Uncle Kev's magic. But October brought an unanticipated guest, a letter from Marco's daughter, Sophia, 19 and studying enology in Guadalajara. "Papa talks of you like a legend," she wrote, enclosing a photo of them in a sun-drenched vineyard. Marco's smile lined but luminous. "He says you taught him home as a taste, not a place. I'd like to learn from the myth myself." Kevin's reply was swift, an invitation to shadow at La Forge. Plane ticket enclosed. Sophia arrived in November. A whirlwind of dark curls and unfiltered curiosity. Her English laced with Spanglish flair. Overtasting menus. She grilled him on fusion techniques. But evenings dissolved into stories, Marco's courtship tales. The food truck dreams deferred. The deportation scar turned into strength. "He never stopped loving you," she confided one night over mezcal flights. Tears salting the rims. Said you were his first real flavor of freedom. Sophia's internship stretched into months. Her innovation Stequila-infused reductions. Mole-glazed short ribs debuting to rave reviews. She bonded with Alex over shared immigrant threads. Their late-night jam sessions in the test kitchen yielding a Bridges dish, a bridge of flavors spanning borders. Dedicated to fathers who'd crossed them. Holiday lights twinkled into 2028. Lou Forge's tables of belonging expanding nationwide. Virtual links connecting isolated diners via Zoom feasts. Kevin and Theo hosted a hybrid at the loft. Screens flickering with faces from Alaska to Alabama elders sharing lax. Trans couples toasting with eggnog. The kids orchestrated a talent show. Jordan, now a foundation intern, performing a spoken word piece on Plates of Possibility. His voice cracking with the beauty of being heard. Winter's Chill nipped at expansions, a pop-up in San Francisco's Castro. Collaborations with queer winemakers. But a subtle shift stirred in Covina restlessness. The CEO's drive evolving toward legacy over ledgers. Over New Year's brunch with Elena. Mimosas bubbling like confessions. He voiced it. Maybe it's time to step back. Let Alex helm the day-to-day. Focus on the foundation. Elena's fork paused mid-bite. Eyes narrowing in sisterly scrutiny. Burnout or birth? You've got that look like when you ditched dishwater for dreams. It was the latter. He realized, a gestation of purpose. Theo's influence nudging him toward creation over conquest. Theo, sketching beside him, nodded, build the table. Not just the chairs. Spring heralded the pivot. Kevin announced the transition at an all-staff retreat in the Catskills. Cabins nestled amid budding maples. Alex accepted the CEO mantle with grace. Their vision a seamless evolution, sustainability woven deeper. Global outreach amplified. You've set the table, Alex said in their acceptance toast. Arms wide under starlit skies. Now we feast together. The handover was ritual, a private dinner at the original Soho booth. Plates of ribeye circled by notes from staff affirmations. Anecdotes. Aspirations. Kevin read them aloud. Voice thickening. Mia's thanks for the scholarship that funded her first restaurant. Jordan's poem etched on vellum. Sophia's recipe for Hardgrove Hope. A dessert bridging sweet and spice. As summer crested, Kevin dove into foundation work full throttle. Traveling to partner sites, a community kitchen in rural Georgia, where queer farmers grew heirloom tomatoes. A youth cafe in Seattle, steaming with lattes and listening circles. Each stop was a thread in the tapestry. Faces reflecting his own younger self, hungry, hopeful, hidden. One August afternoon in Atlanta, amid collard greens simmering in cast iron, he met River, a soft-spoken NB chef from the scholarship cohort. Their story an echo of Alex's, disowned, drifting, discovered through Lou Forge's call. Your note changed my plate, Rivera said. stirring with deliberate care. Now I serve stories, not shame. Kevin's laughter mingled with the sizzle, a sound of pure release. Back home, Theo surprised him with a tattoo session, the original note's words inked along his forearm, intertwined with vines of possibility. Your map, Theo explained. Needles hum a hymn. From then to forever. Fall's Harvest Gala marked the Foundation's milestone 1,000 lives touched, a number that humbled more than headlines. Kevin keynote. Theo at his side, their rings glinting under chandeliers. We don't end stories. He closed, gaze sweeping the sea of faces. We pass the pen. In the afterglow, walking home through leaf-strewn streets, Kevin paused under a street lamp's glow. The city hummed its eternal song, but his heart beat steady, a rhythm of arrival, not chase. The note that had upended his world now anchored it, a reminder that change isn't a single lift, but a lifetime of servings, generous, gritty, gloriously human. Autumn 2028 draped the Northeast in veils of gold and rust, the air crisp with the promise of shedding old skins. Kevin's new rhythm as Foundation steward felt like exhaling after a decade's held breath. Fewer suits, more soil-stained hands, less strategy, more stories sown in fertile ground. Theo's studio thrived alongside, their collaboration birthing ink and plate, workshops, tattoo sessions paired with cooking classes for queer survivors, art and appetite as twin therapies. Elena's brood visited for foliage peeping. The drive to the Berkshires, a caravan of chaos kids caroling off-key. Theo DJing a playlist of folk anthems. The cabin, once a refuge of reckoning, now hosted harvest feasts, wild mushroom risotto foraged from nearby woods, pies bursting with late-season berries. Around the fire, Elena shared news, their mother's old recipe box, unearthed in Astoria attic cleanings, filled with yellowed cards whispering of immigrant hunger's. Grandma Rosa's sfogliatelle, Nano's braciole, each a cipher for endurance. One card caught Kevin's eye, a scrawled note in his father's hand, tucked in the lid. For Kev, keep the fire low. Let it build slow. Simple advice for sauce, but laced with unspoken apology. The man who'd swung belts in confusion now, posthumously, urging patience. Tears pricked as Kevin pocketed it. A posthumous bridge across the chasm. Back in the city, Sophia's influence lingered like a fine vintage. She'd returned to Mexico with blueprints for a LaForge outpost in Guadalajara, a cross-border venture blending her father's legacy with Kevin's vision. Video calls buzzed with updates, site scouts amid agave fields, menus fusing mole with Manhattan flair. Papa S coming out of retirement for this. She grinned, Marco's face popping into frame. Weathered but wickedly alive. Says it's time to season the old wounds. Their grand opening in spring 2029 was a convergence, Kevin and Theo flying south, Alex joining with a delegation of Foundation alums. The restaurant nestled in a revitalized mercado, adobe walls echoing with mariachi and clinking glasses. Marco greeted them at the door, embrace fierce as forgotten summers, words tumbling in Spanglish torrent. You built this. Pomano. A table for us all. The inaugural toast blurred borders, speeches in dual tongues. Dishes like Deportees Delight, tenderloin with chimichurri and pesto. A nod to paths diverged yet rejoined. Marco pulled Kevin aside post-dinner, under lantern light strung like stars. I was wrong to vanish, he said, voice gravel with regret. But you turned pain into this feast. Forgive an old cook. Forgiveness flowed easy, like the mezcal they shared aged. Amber, without bite. We both survived the heat, Kevin replied, clinking glasses. Sophia captured the moment. Her daughter Marco's granddaughter, a toddling firecracker tugging at their pant legs. demanding abuelo stories. Stateside, the Foundation's reach deepened. Kevin spearheaded note networks, anonymous drop boxes, and partner kitchens. Scraps of paper collecting confessions from staff and patrons. Collated into anthologies sold to fund programs. Volumes flew off shelves. Each page a portal, a server's tale of rural rejection. A diner's whisper of late-blooming love. Alex curated readings at Le Forge events. Voices rising in harmony, turning silence into symphony. Summer storms tested the idol. Theo's mother, estranged for years over his coming out, reached out via a hesitant male cancer's shadow lengthening. A plea for reconciliation. Theo wrestled demons in their loft. Sketches turning jagged. Kevin's reassurances met with midnight silences. She chose hate over me. Theo vented one rain-lashed evening. Fists clenched over cooling coffee. Now what? Pity parade. Kevin drew from his own graveside graces, suggesting a mediated visit neutral ground. No expectations. They drove to her assisted living in Jersey. The air thick with unspoken recipes. The meeting was tentative, small talk over vending machine tea. Theo's mother frail, but eyes flickering with buried warmth. I was scared, she admitted finally, hands twisting a napkin, of losing you to a world I didn't understand. Theo's forgiveness was no fairy tale wary. Worded. A door cracked, not flung. But follow-ups bloomed, shared meals. Her knitting baby booties for hypothetical grandkids. Theo's art softening her walls. Kevin watched. Pride swelling. Knowing healing's timeline defies haste. Fall's equinox brought a foundation milestone, the 2,000th youth served. Celebrated with a gala in D.C. Lobbyists and legislators mingling with scholarship stars. Kevin's speech wove policy pleas with personal pleas funding for queer shelters. Protections for immigrant dreamers. A senator approached after. Handshake firm. Your work's moving mountains. Keep serving it up. Winter holidays layered new traditions, a global note exchange with Sophia's outpost. Packages of scribbled hopes crossing frontiers. Elena's family gathered for Hanukkah Christmas mashup. Lax alongside lasagna. The kids now teenish terrors with crushes and crises of their own. One night, Elena's eldest, Luca 14, questioning confided over Coco, what if I like boys? Like you and Theo. Kevin's heart clenched, then opened. Then you're lucky, he said, arm around shoulders. And we've got recipes for that patience. Pride. A dash of sass. Theo jumped in with tales of his own teen fumblings, turning angst into anecdote. Luca's grin a sunrise. 2029 closed with quiet profundity. On New Year's Eve, Le Forge Soho hosted a reflections feast. Tables set with mirrors beneath plates, encouraging diners to pin notes to selves. Kevin and Theo claimed the corner booth, forks pausing as they wrote. Kevin's to the boy who hid. You've become the light. Theo's to my partner in ink and infinite. More pages. Please. As confetti rained at midnight, cheers melding with sobs of release, Kevin pulled Theo close, the city's pulse syncing with theirs. The note that ignited it all felt distant now, yet ever present a spark in the hearth of their shared saga. Spring 2030 greened with growth. The foundation partnered with schools for Flavor Futures curricula, teaching empathy through edible skids from diverse districts, crafting dishes that bridged divides. Kevin Guest taught a session in Queens. Astoria's streets a nostalgic loop. Students' eyes widening at his tales of dumpster dreams. One girl, Aisha Wealth, hijab-framed curiosity asked, "Did food save you?" Kevin pondered, then nodded. It fed the hunger no one saw. What's yours? Her essay later, selected for the anthology, spoke of immigrant mothers' curries as armor against playground barbs. Theo's reconciliation deepened. His mother's health rallied enough for a birthday barbecue. Her laughter tentative but true over grilled corn. "You're a good man," she told Kevin aside. Eyes wet. "For loving mine right." Summer's heat wave mirrored inner fires. Alex announced their engagement to a poet from the youth center. Wedding plans a whirlwind of words and whimsy. Kevin stood as witness at the City Hall ceremony. Theo officiating with vows that rhymed resilience with romance. The reception at Le Forge pulsed with toasts, Marco via video. Sophia toasting, family forged in fire. As leaves turned once more, Kevin reflected in his journal, a habit born of therapy, post-transition pages filling with gratitudes, Theo's steady hand, Elena's unyielding orbit, the foundation's flourishing fields. The original note, yellowing in its frame, whispered of origins. But his story now sprawled vast, a banquet of beginnings, where every lift revealed not end, but encore. The tapestry of 2030 wove tighter threads of legacy. Autumn's palette a backdrop to the foundation's boldest venture yet, plate to page. A memoir writing retreat for queer elders. Their stories transcribed into oral histories archived online. Kevin curated the first gathering in the Hudson Valley. A converted barn aglow with harvest moons and hearth fires. Participants arrived like autumn migrant silver-haired lesbians from the Stonewall era. Trans pioneers who'd navigated 80s AIDS wards. Gay dads who'd buried partners in unmarked graves. Evenings dissolved into circles, pens scratching parchment. Voices cracking with decades-damned emotion. One woman, Harriet 82, with laugh lines like fault lines shared of 60s Greenwich Village dives, where love was coded in glances over gin fizzes. "We fed each other secrets," she said, "because the world starved us of truth." Kevin listened, rapt, his own youth a pale echo, prompting with questions honed from boardroom battles. "What note would you leave your younger self?" Harriet's reply, pinned on a napkin, "Darling, the closet's just a pantry, stock it with fire, not fear." The group chuckled, but tears traced the words. Kevin pocketing it as heirloom. Theo documented visually, sketching portraits that captured essence sync lines evoking resilience's quiet roar. Elena's 60th loomed in November, a milestone demanding fanfare. The family converged on the cabin, now expanded with a great room for gatherings. Beams hewn by local queer carpenters via foundation grants. Kevin helmed the menu, a love letter to her lineage, arancini stuffed with ricotta from Astoria markets. Tiramisu layered with childhood memories. Toast flowed, Luca, now 15 and out as bi, quipping, "And Elena, you're the original trailblazer blazing paths, so we don't have to." Her speech gut-punched, eyes on Kevin and Theo. Voice thick. "You boys turned our family's fractured plate into a full spread. Watch. Learn. Love loud." Hugs lingered. The night dissolving into dances under strung lights. Kids twirling with elders from the retreat. Generations gyrating in joyful defiance. Winter's grip loosened into 2031, bringing an unexpected bloom, Theo's pregnancy announcement. Via IVF with a donor, news dropped over breakfast crepes. His grin wider than the Hudson. Kevin froze, fork midair, then surged into embrace. Laughter bubbling, bewildered joy. "Dad. Me." The word tasted foreign. Thrilling, a new chapter uncharted as Marco's ghost. Preparations cascaded, nursery sketches in Theo's hand. Ultrasounds pinned like menu specials. Elena hooped over video, knitting booties at warp speed. Alex sent care packages of gender-neutral onesies emblazoned with tiny rainbows. Sophia planned a visit. Marco promising abuelo wisdom for the bump. Spring swelled with anticipation. Kevin's foundation tour hitting pause for prenatal classes, awkward yoga poses. Breathing drills that left him winded with wonder. One afternoon in the loft, Theo napping on the couch. Kevin wandered to the window, hand on the glass as if tracing the curve of the life within. Fatherhood loomed vast. Vulnerabilities he'd armored against now naked. Would he repeat his dad's distances? Shield too fiercely. Stifling spirit. Theo stirred, sensing the shadow. Hey, future Papa, it's not a merger. It's a miracle. We'll improvise the recipe. His hand over Kevin's belly. They swayed to phantom lullabies. Fears fermenting into fierce protectiveness. Summer solstice marked 20 years since Kevin's first shift. A symmetry he couldn't ignore. Le Forge hosted an anniversary bash. Alumni chefs returning like prodigal sons, Marco guest starring. Sophia plating specialties. Alex unveiling a legacy line menu. The crowd swelled, investors turned allies. Youth turned mentors. Family fused in festivity. Midway, Kevin took the mic. Voice carrying the patina of passages. 2 decades ago, I washed dishes to drown doubts. Tonight, we dine on dreams deferred no more. A surprise video montage rolled. Elena's baby pics of him in tiny chef hats. Marco's border call audio scrubbed for tenderness. Theo's proposal clip. Laughter. Applause. Then silence as Jordan, now a line cook. 24 and thriving, approached with a gift, a custom knife. Handle engraved with the original note's words. Tears unabashed. Kevin hugged him tight. You were the echo I needed. The night peaked in a conga line snaking the dining room. Borders blurred and beat. Fall heralded the birth. Theo in labor through equinox storms. Kevin pacing hospital halls like a caged panther. Dawn broke with Crease's son. Elias. 7 pounds of squall and serenity. Dark curls mirroring Theo's. Hazel eyes Kevin's own. Holding him first. Swaddled and slick. Kevin whispered. Welcome to the table. Little one. We've been waiting. Parenthood upended rhythms. Sleepless feeds blending with foundation zooms. Elias's gurgles soundtrack to strategy calls. Theo adapted with artist ease. Sketching mobiles from onesies. Kevin with CEO precision. Batch cooking purees in industrial blenders. Elena descended like a benevolent general. Schooling them in burp cloths and bedtime tales. Elias's baptism not religious. But ritual was a foundation affair. Waters from global sources, Hudson. Guadalquivir Springs, poured in a Soho ceremony. Guests from every era toasting his arrival. Alex cradled him during vows. May your notes always be kind. Your plate's always full. Marco. Visiting. Sang a lullaby in Spanish. Voice quavering with grandfatherly awe. Winter 2031 wrapped them in woolen warmth. Holidays a haze of firsts. Elias's chubby fists in turkey. Luca babysitting with teen gravitas. One snowy eve. Snow blanketing the city like forgiveness. Kevin rocked the baby by the tree. Ornaments glinting, tails Marco's vineyard vial. Harriet's napkin note. Theo's ring box. Theo joined. Chin on shoulder. Think he'll lift plates like his dad's. Kevin smiled. Kissing Elias's brow. Or write notes that change worlds. Either way, he's ours. As 2032 dawned, the family expanded its orbit. Sophia's wedding in Mexico. A beachside bash where Elias toddled sands. Marco walking her down aisles of agave. Kevin danced with Theo under tangerine sunsets. Vows renewed in salt air. The foundation hit 5,000 served. A gallo in L. A. Where Elias stole the show. Gurgling through Kevin's speech. This work isn't my night's ours. Passed like recipes. Rich with every hand that stirred. Spring's renewal mirrored Elias's first steps. Wobbly toward Theo's open arms in the loft. Kevin filmed it. Heart full. The original note now immobile above the crib. Twirling wisdoms for tiny eyes. Summer circuits brought Elias to kitchens, strapped to Kevin's chest. inhaling basil and possibility. Aisha, now a teen sous chef, cooed over him, little boss in training. Her pride swelled. Kevin Sanathar's cycle spun. By fall, Elias babbled note, pointing at the frame, as if intuiting origins. Kevin laughed, scooping him up. That's the magic, kid. Starts with a whisper, ends with a world. In the hush of evenings, with Theo sketching nearby, Kevin knew the plate lifted not once, but eternally revealing not just change, but the endless feast of becoming. 2032's leaves fell like gentle applause. The world is stage for Elias's toddler theatric stumbles into discoveries, each a spark in Kevin and Theo's watchful eyes. The loft, once a sanctuary of two, now echoed with block towers toppling and Babel symphonies. Theo's sketches evolving to capture pudgy triumphs, Elias wielding a wooden spoon like Excalibur. Sauce smeared across triumphant grins. Kevin's foundation stewardship deepened into diplomacy, testifying before congressional committees on queer food insecurity. His words a blend of data and heart. Plates of testimony served with unyielding poise. One hearing in D.C. Amid oak-paneled gravitas. A senator grilled, how does notes under plates translate to policy? Kevin slid a replica across the table, the original's words etched in silver. It translates to lives. Senator. One story at a time. Until the hunger ends. The chamber stirred. Allies nodding. Opponents shifting. Backlash brewed in editorials. But endorsements poured, a First Lady tweet. Celebrity chef collabs. Elias, napping in a carrier during breaks, became unofficial mascot. His coups softening stone-faced aides. Elena's retirement from teaching brought her closer. A pied terra in Brooklyn for city jaunts. Her wisdom a steady simmer. Over Thanksgiving tables groaning under turkey and tamales. Luca, now 16 and dating a non-binary artist, she pulled Kevin aside amid pie slices. Nephew's got your fire. Don't let the world douse it. Elias, perched on her lap, gummed a crust, eyes wide at the grown-up gravitas. Winter wove holidays into heartstrings. Hanukkah gelt hidden in loaf-forged stockings. Christmas Eves at the cabin with extended kin Sophia and her husband jetting north. Marco regaling with border-crossing yarns sanitized for young ears. One night, snow-muffled, Elias discovered the note frame in Kevin's study. Tiny fingers tracing ink. Papa's story. He lisped. Head cocked. Kevin knelt. Voice soft as snowfall. Ours. Buddy. Starts with a surprise. Ends with family. Theo. Eavesdropping. Added illustrations. Laterra children's book draft. The magic under the plate. Elias as wide-eyed hero lifting dishes to reveal rainbows. Spring 2033 burst with Elias's third birthday. A park picnic under cherry blossoms. Foundation friends. Loaf-forged treats. A cake Theo inked with edible rainbows. Alex. Honeymoon glow lingering. Gifted a tiny chef's hat. Jordan. Now engaged. A set of play knives. As Elias blew candles. Giggling at smoke wisps. Kevin caught Theo's I love's ledger balanced in that gaze. Debts of doubt paid in full. Summer circuits with the tot in tow. A foundation pop-up in New Orleans. Jazz-infused crawfish boils raising funds for Gulf Coast queer rebuilds post-hurricanes. Elias charmed crowds. Banging pots in a makeshift high chair. His rhythm syncing with brass swells. A local elder. Miss Lorraine 70. Lesbian legend of Mardi Gras crew scooped him up. Crooning Creole lullabies. This one's got soul. Share. Feed it well. Her mentorship bloomed. Letters exchanged. Recipes for gumbo that heals what words can't. Kevin wove her into the oral history project. Her tapes a treasure trove of 70s French quarter undergrounds, where drag brunches masked resistance feasts. Fall's equinox aligned with a personal pivot. Theo's gallery show. Feasts Inked. Debuting at a Chelsea Space Canvases of Le Forge moments. Patrons' notes transcribed into swirling tattoos. The opening thrummed, Elias finger painting in a corner. Celebrities tracing lines with awe. Elena curated a section on family inks. Her own arm, now bearing a cannoli in tribute. A critic's review lauded, Hargrove's empire isn't culinary, it's cartographic. Mapping hearts via hunger. The show sold out. Proceeds seeding a youth art program. Theo's vision intersecting Kevin's like flavors and fusion. Winter 2033 brought a blizzard-born revelation. Stranded at the cabin. Power flickering. The family huddled by generator glow stories swapped like hearth-warmed brandy. Luca. Wrestling college apps. Confessed fears of fitting in at NYU's queer scene. What if I'm not queer enough? Kevin shared his own imposter pangs. Theo adding, enough is myth. Be your messy true. The storm cleared to crystalline days. Sledding slopes claiming casualties and snow angels. Elias's first snowman. Lopsided and loved. Mirrored their lives imperfect. Enduring. 2034 dawned with expansion, the Foundation's international arm. Launching in Toronto with Sophia's input. Bridging U.S. Mexico pipelines for queer migrants. Kevin keynote the opener. Elias on hip. Words weaving webs, borders are lines on maps. But meals. They know no fences. Back home. Elias's preschool enrollment marked a milestone, drop-offs tear-streaked. Pickups tales of finger paints and friendships. One classmate's dad. A single gay parent from the Foundation network. Sparked playdates. Park barbecues where kids chased. Adults shared survival scrolls. Spring's thaw unearthed old roots. A Queen's reunion. Kevin revisiting the greasy spoon of yore. Now a hipster haunt. The owner. Grizzled but grinning. Remembered. Kid with the quick hands and quicker dreams. They cooked a collab pop-up. Proceeds to local youth Elias, helping with dough. Flour-dusted delight. Summer's heat fueled a family road trip, Southwest Loop. Echoing Marco's Trail Sedona hikes. Taos Adobe dinners. Elias named cacti, note friends. Theo sketching horizons. Kevin narrating immigrant epics sanitized for small ears. Fall harvest coincided with Elias's fourth, a farm-to-table bash at the cabin. Hayrides hauling kin. Miss Lorraine flew north. Her gumbo the star. Schooling Elias in Rue rituals, stir slow. Let the spirits speak. As leaves spiraled. Kevin journaled by firelight, gratitudes for Theo's artistry. Elias's endless questions. The note's legacy, now a library of lives. A new entry, 25 years post-plate. Still lifting. Still learning. Winter wrapped in wonder. Hanukkah dreidel games with Luca's bow. Christmas carols croaked by Marco via call. One eve. Elias unearthed the frame again. Demanding read. Kevin obliged. Theo harmonizing. The toddler's yawns punctuation to prophecy fulfilled. 2035's cusp whispered of chapters unfolding. Elias's kindergarten queries. Foundation franchises in Asia. Theo's book deal on inked intimacies. Kevin. Surveying the sprawl from loft windows. Felt not conquest, but continuum the notes whisper amplified to roar. A life layered rich. Ready for whatever plate next revealed. The wheel of 2035 turned with the steady grace of seasons well-tended. Spring's verdant surge mirroring Elias's kindergarten conquests backpack, bulging with crayons and curiosities. His chatter a torrent of, today, I shared my sandwich with Jamal. Like you share stories. Papa. Kevin and Theo navigated the new normal, staggered drop-offs. Parent-teacher mixers where whispers of Hargrove elicited odd glances. Their family a quiet legend in pleated uniforms. The Foundation's Toronto outpost thrived. Sophia commuting as cultural liaison. Her second Childa girl named Esperanza cooing in board calls. Kevin visited in May. Maple scented streets alive with pride flags unfurled early. A youth cafe there. Note and Nosh. Buzzed with bi-weekly slams. Teens spitting verses over poutine. Themes drawn from Dropbox confessions. One performer, a trans kid named Kai, echoed Jordan's early fire. Your plates taught me to serve my truth. Unapologetic. Inspired. Kevin greenlit Echo Exchanges, reciprocal residencies. Toronto alums shadowing Le Forge vets. Flavors crossing oceans. Back in New York, he hosted a fusion feast, Toronto butter tarts glazed with Soho espresso. Attended by elders like Harriet, now 90 but spry. Her walker festooned with pride pins. Still stirring the pot. She winked, sampling a bite. Elena's 65th bloomed in June. A jazz cruise on the Hudson Steamboat chugging past skyline sentinels. Band swinging standards as kin danced decks. Luca, 18 and NYU bound. DJ'd sets blending Billy with Bad Bunny. His partner, Riley, sketched caricatures, capturing Elena mid-twirl with Elias as her cavalier. Toasts crested at sunset. Kevin's to the sister who plated my first safe space, drawing cheers and claps on backs. Summer solstice shadowed a somber note, Miss Lorraine's passing. Her New Orleans homecoming a jazz funeral procession. Second lines snaking bayous in tribute. Kevin flew south with Theo and Elias. The boy wide-eyed at brass wails and mourner dances. At the Reapist Gumbo bubbling communal. Stories swirling like steam. Lorraine's niece handed Kevin an envelope, Auntie's last recipe. For you. Inside. A card yellowed as memory, Rue instructions. Footnoted, add love liberal. Hargrove. It's the thickener. Tears salted the ink. Kevin vowing to weave it into the oral archives. Her voice eternal in digital vaults. Fall's academic tide pulled Luca to college. Dorm moves a maelstrom of boxes and goodbyes. Kevin drove him to Manhattan. Theo packing survival kits, canned ravioli. Rainbow socks. A note echoing the original. See yourself here. Kid. Luca's hug lingered. Voice muffled. Thanks for the blueprint. Unks. Elias. Sensing shifts. Clung tighter. Bedtime pleas for the plate story multiplying. Kevin embellished now Theo's illustrations bound into a bedtime tome. Pages turning to reveal not just notes, but nests of community, Marco's vineyard. Alex's emceeing. Sophia's sands. Winter 2035 frosted into holidays amplified. A foundation, global gathering virtual. Faces from Guadalajara to Gary toasting via screens. Elias the ringmaster in elf ears. Christmas at the cabin snowed in Kin Marco's tales translated for Esperanza's toddler tantrums. Elena's pies contested by Sophia's churros. 2036 greened with Elias's fifth, a zoo safari theme. Animals as metaphors, giraffes for necks craned toward truth. Penguins for partnerships proud. Alex. Parents now to twins via surrogacy. Co-hosted. Their nursery, a rainbow riot. Double the notes. Double the noise. Alex quipped. Bouncing babes. Spring circuits hit Asia, Tokyo outpost beta. Sushi soul fusions mentored by queer chefs navigating corporate closets. Kevin keynote in halting Japanese. Translator bridging gaps. Elias charming hosts with finger heart emojis. A local activist. Hiroshi 40. Gay. Post, 2030 equality wave shared. Your model. It's revolution wrapped in rice. Back stateside. Theo's book launched, Inked Appetites. Memoirs mated with menus. Bestseller lists blushing. Signings swarmed, Elias autographing with crayons. Fans queuing for dual signatures. Theo's flourish. Kevin's firm. Summer storms brewed internal. Elias's first bully brush. A classmate's taunt over two dads. Drop-off tears flowed. Kevin's heart raw as he knelt. Words hurt like hot oil. But we cool him with kindness. Who's your ally? Theo, and he coached resilience rhymes. Playdates turning teachable. Fall harvest yielded bounties. Foundations 10. 000th served. AD. C. Summit with policy wins federal grants for queer culinary co-ops. Kevin's testimony trended. Elias's crayon drawing of Papa's Big Talk pinned to dais. Winter's hush birth Theo's second pregnancy another boy. Due spring 37. Ultrasounds sang heartbeats. Elias dubbing him Little Note. The loft abuzz with blueprints anew. 2037's wheel spun. Elias's kindergarten graduation. Cap askew as he diploma danced. Theo birth Leo amid April showers. Cries harmonizing with cherry petals. Elias big brothered with bossy glee. Luca home for summer's interning at La Forge. Milestones mounted, Marco's 80th. A vineyard vow renewal with Sophia officiating. Harriet's centennial. Virtual toasts from global grannies. Kevin's 50th crept stealthy surprise roast at Soho. Roast ribbled. Tributes tender. Theo's gift, a tattoo sleeve continuation. Vines linking past to progeny. As 2037 waned. Family gathered cabin-side. Fire crackling confessions. Elias. 6. Unearthed the frame. Papa. Did the note know it'd make all this? Kevin chuckled. Theo chiming. It knew enough to start. Spring 2038 flowered Leo's firsts, rolls. Raspberries. Reaches for siblings. Foundation franchises dotted Europe Berlin brunches. Paris patisserie Esquire led. Note nurtured. Kevin jetted sparingly. Home the hearth. Summer's heat hatched Elias's school play, the magical meal. Him as the note finder. Stage whispers booming truths. Parents packed house. Applause thundering pride. Fall's foliage framed Luca's wedding, small. Brooklyn Botanic. Riley and Vines. Vows vowing, notes of us. Kevin walked him. Voice cracking, from boy to blaze proud. Winter wrap 2038 in wool, holidays hybrid. Holograms hugging distant kin. Leo's babbles blended with carols. Elias directing pageants of plush. 2039 dawned decisive, Kevin's memoir pitch. Beneath the plate. Agent inked. Writing retreats in the valley yielded draft straw. Revelatory. Laced with Theo's edits. Elias's illustrations. The book's fall drop was seismic, launches in landmark kitchens. Readings rippling to translations. Critics crowned it culinary confessional. Sales seeding scholarships anew. By year's end. 50th anniversary of the note loomed 2039 gala. Global stream. Kevin closed, 50 years. Not 50,000 moments. Lifted together. Elias and Leo on stage. Tiny hands in his. Theo's gaze grounding. The family a constellation complete. The plate. Once singular. Now banquet vast legacy not endpoint. But eternal serving. Flavors forever unfolding in love's infinite kitchen.